In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. You may have noticed that so far during the season of Epiphany, John the Baptist has been somewhat of a central character in the gospel readings. We even hear him today of him. It's his arrest that triggers a decision by Jesus to leave Nazareth and go to Capernaum. So we see a shift in the ministry of Jesus. Up till now, we've talked about his baptism and all the implications of it. And so today, he begins the work of ministry. Now, the passage that comes after that is one that usually makes Episcopalians feel like they're back in grade school, where they don't want the teacher to call upon them. They kind of shrink down in their chairs just in case the priest looks at them when he's talking about this passage. It's the passage of calling. We all know, of course, that the calling part of it leads to that other thing that we Episcopalians fear so much, the E word, evangelism. But I want to take you back before that. I just want to get you past the nervous. Jesus begins his ministry by doing what? Not teaching, which a good rabbi would do, but by enlisting followers. He's out walking along the shore. He sees a couple of fishermen. I don't know about you, but if you've ever met a fisherman in the Middle East, you don't have to get close to them to know that they're there. And he asks them, he tells them, come with me. I'll teach you how to fish for people. So Jesus is on kind of a roll. He gets Peter and Andrew. And so he goes on to the next boat, James and John and their father. And he gets them to follow. And they would follow for a long time, wouldn't they? And 8 others along the way. A tax collector, who knows what. A zealot. An interesting mix. Jesus calls them all to be his followers. Later, we would have another name for them. Apostles. Apostles. But Jesus calls them together to follow him around Palestine for 3 years. They didn't know that when they started. They didn't know it would be 3 years, that it would end horribly. Disappointment, fear. But they followed. They followed. The call of Christ is never a sure thing by human standards. Because we're never quite sure of where it's going to go. Trust me. I know the facts of that. 40 years ago, let's see, got to do the math quickly. 40 years ago, I never would have imagined that I'd be standing here. I never imagined that I'd be a bishop of the church. 40 years ago, I probably was lucky if I went to church every Sunday. Although I believed in it for other people. And one day, that all changed. I heard his voice inside. Not an outside voice, an inside voice. Can't exactly articulate what the voice said, but I thought that if I articulated it myself, it would not only frighten me, it would frighten my wife. Luckily, my children were way too small to know the difference. And what he does is he calls us out of the boat in which that possibility lives into a world where we make it real and present. We put flesh on it. That's called making it incarnate. Vocation is not about what we do, but it's about who we are. It's the person God is calling us to become. Luckily for me, God's not done with me yet. I'm still becoming something. Trust me, there are many days where people in my office wonder what in the world it's going to be. But it's true for all of us. As we baptize these three today, as we confirm these and receive somebody, we are reminded of our own call way back when. We stand and renew our baptismal covenant, and it serves to us as a reminder that God has called us to a particular vocation, to step out of one part of our life into the part that He has created for us. And to begin that process of becoming the whole person that God created us to be. Not that fractured, segmented person, but the whole person that God created us to be. And to make that real in the world. Because that process of becoming the person God called us to be is the power that can transform the world in which we live. You see, as long as we keep it inside, it's not real. As long as I didn't have to share with anybody that I thought I was called to be a priest, and save being either thought a fool or a religious fanatic, it wasn't real. It was just an idea in my head. But once I brought it into the world and put flesh on it, it was real. Luckily for me, I heard that call. And so my prayer for all of you today as we stand and renew our baptismal covenant is that you again will hear that call in your life. That you will know that God has been calling to you from the moment of your birth to walk this baptismal walk, to be this baptismal person in every aspect of your life, to live up to who God sees you could be. What a gift God has given us, that we don't have to be who we are, that we can be more, and that He calls us to a life of more, never less. What a gift. What a blessing. So as you utter those words today, very familiar words in that covenant, hear the voice of God calling to you from the deepest, most intimate part of heaven, asking you to walk quietly and softly with Him to becoming fully yourself. Amen.